Alright guys, so today we're going to be graphing quadratic functions. Hopefully you grabbed the note sheet that I made for you guys because I want to try to make it easier, have the graphs all set up for you, okay? My suggestion is I have on the back notes that you need first so you know what every one of these things are that you need to find. I know it looks like a lot and I apologize, but once you kind of get through the process, you guys will be okay. All right, so we're going to be graphing quadratic functions, okay? This is when you graph, it's going to look like a parabola, or it's got a U shape. Not this kind of U shape with the tail, but just the U like this, okay? The first thing is, you guys all know it's going to be y is going to be equal to ax plus squared plus bx plus c. That's not changed. So the first thing you're asked to look for is if it's up or if it's down. So you're going to look at your number value of a. Okay, so if it's greater than 0, it's going to go up like this. If it's less than 0, it's going to go down. Now think about it this way. What kind of numbers are greater than 0? Those are your positive numbers. So basically, if it's positive, it's going to go up. If it's less than 0, what are the less than zeros? The negatives. So if it's a negative, if a is negative number, it's going to go down. And it's going to look like this once you graph it. The next thing, guys, is it's going to ask you to give the vertex. Here is the vertex, how to find your vertex formula first. And that's going to solve it so that you have x. Then what you're going to do is, once you get that x, you're going to substitute x into the given equation and solve for y. And that's how you're going to get that. It's going to be an ordered pair, which means, so I solve it for x, I plug it into whatever this equation is, and that'll solve it for the y. Next, and this is the next two are easy. If you've done these two up here, the next two are easy. Next thing it asks you is the axis of symmetry. You'll see it just says axis because there's not a lot of room. Okay, and if you remember what symmetry means, or symmetrical, it means you could cut it in half and it's going to be perfect. It's like a nice mirror image. Your axis of symmetry is your x value from the vertex. So when you solve for that vertex, it's going to be this first number. And that's going to be that, and it's a vertical line that cuts it into the parabola into two equal sides. So if you've solved for here, you've solved for here. And almost as easy as what finding for the up-down, deciding which way it's going, is the y-intercept. And it's going to say y-inter. To kind of save some room on your sheet. All that is whatever your c value is in that equation, that is your y-intercept. That's where that line, your parabola, once you draw it, that's where it's going to cross. Okay. So let's just take a quick look. Here is one problem. And just identifying our parts, okay? So is this one going to go up or down? Up says A or B. I mean A, what is the value of A? It's positive, so this one's going to go up. Next we'll find our axis, which was that negative B over 2 times A. So this is a negative B. Okay, so it's a negative B. Now I've got a negative 4, and kind of like we did with quadratic formula, that means it's going to be a negative, then a negative 4 because it's negative, over 2 times 1. So in this case, then it's a positive 4 over 2, so the x is equal to a 2. So there's our, for our pair, it's an x. Okay. It's the 2. Now to solve for y, we're going to plug this 2 in. So this becomes 2 squared minus 4 times the 2 plus a 2. Now we just figured out because that's what y is equal to. So y will be equal to 2 times 2 is 4. This is going to be minus. That'll be 2 times 4 is an 8 plus 2. So now just figuring out this is a negative 4, because 4 minus 8 is negative 4, plus 2, so this is a negative 2. So now our vertex for this one is a negative 2 and a 2. So then our next question, what's the axis? And if you remember, it's the x value from the vertex, so -2. And then the next thing asks you, what's your y-intercept? If you remember, I said that was the c value, and in this case, it's a 2. Okay, so now let's look at how that's going to look like on your paper. I flipped it over, and I'm sorry, some places you can see. Now, what you guys will notice is that this was the problem we worked out on the back. Okay, once again, we said it was going to go up because that's positive. And if we flip it over, we'll say we see our vertex. We already figured it out. It was a -2 and a 2. So -2 and a 2. We don't need to flip over anymore. The axis is this -2. Wait a minute, it was a 2, -2. My fault. That's not negative. This one was. Sorry. This is a +2, and our y-intercept is a 2. Now let's look. This is how you're going to graph it. I know this is the hard part, but if you guys got this all set up, you should be okay. You probably will see I've also got a table here. Okay, we are going to start with our vertex. And as I said, it's a 2, -2, so go over 2, go down 2. There is our vertex. And what that means is, and we said that's our axis, so that means here's our vertical line. You could draw a dotted line, you could draw a solid line, it doesn't matter. That means it's going to have a mirror image on each side. When you draw a mirror image of each side, then it's going to be in the same place. The easy way to do this, start from this 2. It's your x. Go 1 to the right, which is a 3. And if I go 1 to the left, right on the other side, that's a 1. I only have to solve for one of those because it's going to be at the same height. It's going to be in the x on the same place. I mean, the x is going to be different, but it's going to be at the same height on your y. Then, go back to the 2. I'm going to go 2 to the right, which is 4. And then 2 to the left, which is 0. And then these two will have that same y. So it looks like you should have to solve it 4 times, but you only got to solve it twice. So then what you do is you go back to your equation and you plug in or substitute one of these in. Me, I'm going to go with the 1 because 1s are a little bit easier. So substitute it in. So x squared, so 1 squared, minus 4 times a 1 for that x plus a 2. So 1 squared is 1. -4 times a 1 is a -4 plus a 2. Start going through. So 1 minus 4 is a -3 plus 2. So this is equal to a -1. So these two are going to be at a -1. And I only have to do it once because they're at the same height. Now we're going to go down here and do the same thing. Me, I'm going to go with 0 instead of the 4. Once again, plug it in. 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 2. Here's why I picked 0. This is gone because 0 times 0 is 0. This is -4 times 0, which is 0. So it becomes 0 plus 2. And it's just going to be equal to a 2. So these two are a 2. So there's the table figured out. Now go in and graph them. So this is a 3, -1. So go over to the 3, -1. Be careful, as you guys see, they've got halves on it. You can do halves if you want to. I just do whole numbers. Then go here. See, I said 3. Here's 1, -1. Now I'm going to do 4, and it's going up to 2. Careful with those halves. And then 0, 2. And like I said, there they match. There they match. Now draw it. You're going to make a U. So make sure we don't do a V. Just kind of make it look like it's rounded. And there it is. Let's look at one more today. You guys can finish the notes tomorrow if you want to look re-over. Once again, first it says up or down. A is positive, so it's going to go up. Our vertex we have to figure out, if you remember, it was a negative b over 2a. So I've got a negative 6, so it'll be a negative negative over 2 times 1. So this would be a positive 6 over 2. So my x value is a 3, which means my axis is a 3. I could just do my y-intercept right now because that's a 5. Now I got to use this equation to put in to find out for y. Like we said, we're going to substitute the x in. So it's x squared, so it's 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 5. And this is what's going to give us our y for our vertex. So 3 times 3 is 9. This is going to be minus 18 plus 5. So 9 minus 18 is a negative 9 plus 5. So this one is going to be a negative 4. So now I've got my vertex, a 3, negative 4. Now let's start graphing. So go to 3, go down to negative 4. Now don't worry, yes, we're in the negatives, but it could still go up, can't it? So here's our vertex. I'm going to draw my line of symmetry just so I could see it. Especially here where those numbers are, because then I can count them over a little easier. So let's take a look. So from the 3, once again, I'm going to go 1 over. I got a 4. 1 to the right, 1 to the left is a 2. Now I'm going to go 2 to the right, which this is a 5. Remember, those two match, these two match. From here, 2 over, that's a 1. Now just start plugging in. Remember, we're using that equation up here. I'm going to take between 4 and 2. I'm going to go 2 because it's smaller. So 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 5. So this is 4. That's going to be a negative 12 plus 5. So let's see, 4 minus 12 is a negative 8 plus a 5. So that one was a negative 3 when I used the 2. And since I said the 4 matches, that'll be a negative 3 also. Tried to make that a little dark because that purple's coming through. Now I got one more to do. 5 or 1? Oh, of course 1. So 1 squared minus 6 times a 1 plus a 5. We know that's 1. We know this is 6. So 1 minus 6 plus 5. This comes out to be a negative 5 plus 5. So it zeroes out. So for the 1 it's 0. So that means for the 5 it's 0. Now let's start graphing. So I go to 4, negative 3. So go down here. Remember, we're going to have some halves, so be careful. Do 2, negative 3. And as you see, since they're the same, they're at the same height. Now go to 5. It doesn't go anywhere. It sticks right here. Now all the way over here, 1 and 0. Again, let's go. We make a U shape. Don't forget those arrows because it's going to continue going up that way. Okay, guys, any questions, ask.